Welcome to Exiles, a Gospel of Mark podcast. We're coming to you from Grace Church in Erie, Pennsylvania, where we're taking what we learn about ancient truths and the person of Jesus into our everyday life. You can check out whoisgrace.com/Mark for the sermon and resources that we're using today for our conversation. So we are in season 5, final season. Sad. I am not Danielle, so I am a different voice.
Oh, snap.
Introing today, I am Sarah, Pastor Sarah with an H, and I get to join these guys in one of their final weeks. And I'm just going to point blank ask, how are you guys feeling about
3 left
coming to an end?
No, 2 left. It's
left.
this one,
and
right?
then
Because you're preaching.
Yeah,
on,
2 after this.
On whatever.
2 out. So this is the third last one.
Yeah.
Third to last one.
Okay.
Wild. We've been doing this for 2 years.
Yeah.
How are we feeling?
Yeah.
I don't know.
You haven't reflected on it yet.
About it.
Okay, you don't have to cry right now, but
Yeah, that's usually my default. Yeah.
maybe.
I will not miss. It's like as far. I always try to like plan this out because
You have to
on,
start with the positive, Mike.
Oh no, you start.
I will not
You're
miss.
ruining everything.
Tuesdays we film sermons like a week and a half ahead of time because of the broadcast and all the things. So Tuesday is like filming. Your manuscript's got to be set. We don't usually get it till Wednesday. Thursday morning we're normally doing the podcast. So without fail, we've been doing this for 2 years. Without fail, Thursday morning I wake up and go, oh crap, I got to read the manuscript for today because I got a podcast. I'm like, da, 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 da. So I won't miss that piece. I'll miss you guys.
So this didn't help your forgetfulness, is what you're saying.
No.
It's still as strong. It will be weird. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
you
I already
don't.
had my
No.
shot. No, do it.
No.
It's you.
For me, like off of yours, Mike, I actually like look forward to the Thursday mornings. Like I get up early and I meal prep and blah, blah, blah. And I listen and watch like while I do it. And it's nice being able to hear it twice. Mm-hmm. Like I hear it and then I hear it again on Sunday morning. So you catch a lot of things. So I'll miss it. I miss I looked back at the old picture that like the very first day or one of the very first, and we were babies. But like, I remember being so terrified of saying something wrong or like sounding dumb or like, and it's been really great watching all of us become so comfortable, but I've really enjoyed like just the conversations and what I get out of them. So that's going to be kind of a bummer when they're over.
It's a cool vibe. I feel like we got like a good like.
I know.
We've like learned each other like, okay, and Steven's
I
almost
actually
done,
had
and I'm gonna
someone-
volley back and forth.
Yeah.
And
I actually had someone call me, like to my teams. Was it this week or end of last? No, it was this week. And they left a voicemail and they asked why it was ending. So I think people have gotten really attached to it too.
I get if I get a comment about Exiles, that it'll be it's never about content. It's about the camaraderie.
Yeah.
So whatever
Yeah.
that means. But I appreciate that
I'll
people
get-
It flew
like
by.
the banter.
people come and be like, oh, I loved what you said this week
Yes.
on the podcast. I'm like, I
I have no idea what I
did
said.
I say? Because I watched it and then I podcasted it and then,
Great.
and then it was this Sunday. Da, 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 da.
Could you remind
Like,
me?
yeah, that was, yeah, I thought.
And I always listen, and there's always stuff that I pick up that I didn't pick up in the conversation. So
and you guys are all right too.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I'm just a sometimes guest, but a more frequent listener to you guys. And so it's been great because it's like, it's spontaneous conversation, reflection. It's not scripted. That's why you don't remember what the heck you said. And that, it's been good for me. Yeah.
And we'll never be able to see each other again after this, huh?
That's it. Yeah, it's done. Do we need to like play Green Day? What was that song you graduated?
Wake me up when September.
That one,
Is
yes.
that the one?
Yeah. Don't sing it though. Yeah.
Yeah,
let's stop singing.
Okay. Well, that was kind of like our intro, but I have a separate little
Great.
icebreaker. Is that
Let's do
okay?
it.
Yes.
Do it.
Okay, so Derek Opus's sermon this time, he talks about different symbols that represent movements, whether they're religious or otherwise, right? So he talked about like the peace sign for the hippie movement and that little like green arrow recycling triangle that we all are familiar with that started, I think, when we were kids, the recycling movement.
I
or
remember
whatever.
when recycling started. Mhm.
Yeah. So he talks about that, and that got my brain thinking about just like, what are the familiar things we see or hear that instantly take our brains to not just a movement, but like a product or a company or a. So does anything come to mind? I mean, I have a little quiz for you, but
When I think of Adidas, my brain instantly goes to David Beckham and Manchester United.
yeah.
Oh, the pop things?
I remember the tearaway
poppers?
pants.
Yeah.
Do you remember the big Adidas like coat from like the 90s?
Like the...
Oh, what was it? Had a name. They were like big and poofy, and they were green, and they had the stripes on the sleeves.
Yeah, and they had the classic Adidas logo, not the new one.
That coat was like the bee's knees.
Oh, the bee's knees. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
just
what I
need
think of.
jingles in. We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Jingles.
Like jingles just hit me. I'm like,
Good
there
one.
you
All
go.
right. Well, then perfect. You were made for this game.
USA.
Oh!
Actually, they're all church companies.
Mike has never sung on the podcast before.
And
3 times today.
Today
Oh,
is the day.
Sorry, guys. Getting loose at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out how to bring buzzers, but I thought maybe that would interfere audibly. So you just have to like lean into your microphone.
Oh, this is like a thing.
It'll
Lean
work.
into your
All right.
microphone. First one to say it out. We'll start easy. I'm going to give you basically a jingle slogan. I'm not singing anything. I apologize. But a slogan. And you chime in
Is
with
there Scottish ones in there
the
too?
product or company. I feel like, so I did think about that. I'm like, I feel like globalization maybe has covered all of these for
Okay.
you. Plus, you've been in the States for a while.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
You're-
Only 17
Ready?
years.
First one. Easy peasy. I'm loving it.
McDonald's.
See?
Shoot.
Boom.
Steven.
Even easier.
Do they
Just-
have McDonald's in
ready?
Scotland? They do.
Even easier. Just do it.
Nike.
Nike.
There you go. Good. How about the Breakfast of Champions?
Wheaties. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is
Wheaties.
Wheaties.
Yeah, it's Wheaties. Remember they always had the faces on the box?
Yeah.
Like Wheaties were a
Yeah.
collector's item because they'd have people on the box. Maybe she's born with it.
Maybe it's Maybelline.
I love that you
I feel like that
finished
one was slighted towards Sarah.
I'm glad that she got that first.
finished it. The quicker picker upper.
Bounty.
Yes.
Good.
You're in good hands.
With all
Allstate.
state.
That's right.
Tie.
Tie.
Let's go places.
Oh, say it again. Let's go places.
Let's go places.
Is it like a credit card?
No,
I don't know.
it's a vehicle manufacturer. Let's go places.
Toyota?
Camry?
Yeah,
Is it Toyota? Ah.
Yeah.
I have a Toyota.
Okay, so who is go further?
Oh.
Not Ram.
I knew I'd be bad at this. I started strong.
Go further.
It's not Ford.
It is Ford.
It is
Look
Ford.
at
I thought Ford was built Ford tough.
And I have.
I think that's another one, but this one, yeah, it's also
Maybe they're
go
new.
further.
Their old one was built Ford tough. Now it's go
Yeah,
further.
they're probably trying to
great.
appeal
Look
to
at
a
me.
wider audience.
Oh,
All right, you've got to know this one. What's in your wallet?
Capital One.
There you go.
I mean,
I want to be that guy.
If you
That's
gave
the
me a
job
second, I
want.
would have got it.
How about everywhere you want to be?
Oh,
Discover?
Different one.
MasterCard?
Different one.
it's not American Express, is it?
Nope.
Chase.
Nope. Super
Visa.
Visa. There.
Oh my gosh, how did we forget that?
All right, last one. I don't
Okay.
know if you know this because I had forgotten it, but when I saw it, well, it made me smile. The snack that smiles back.
Goldfish?
Goldfish.
Hey.
Yum.
American marketing.
Isn't that
works
cute?
on me.
I think Mike won, yeah.
Yeah. But
He
it's
definitely did.
interesting. I mean, it's interesting how our brains will attach to an image, a song, a slogan, and then we, signify something with that. We're, mentally attached to that. So Derek made the point about
Segway.
Yeah,
There we
here we go. Derek made the point about Christianity's symbol actually being quite shocking. That we just casually wear crosses, hang crosses, stick them on our
Yep.
cars and everything. But in first century, it would have been a symbol of torture. Nobody would have drawn a
I'm really
cross
glad I
on
was born when
something.
I was born.
So I think it's March Madness right now. So I mean, by the time this goes, I think it'll either be Final Four weekend or whatever. But I'm just it's digital fast. But the way I'm
Right.
binging basketball, it's fine. Everybody, I mean, tattoos are like a thing now. Everyone has tattoos. Boy, I feel like everyone has a tattoo of a cross on.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just trying not to be a judgmental son of a gun, but everybody has a cross, some way, shape, or form tattooed on them. It's fascinating.
Right. And you do kind of want to just ask, hey, what does that mean to you?
Yeah.
Why'd you get that?
What is that?
Just see what comes
I
back.
feel most of the time it's a constant. We have it like, okay, for myself, I'll talk. Like in my Bronco, I have a silver cross that's on the dash. Mm-hmm. And when I first got her, her name is Gemma. She's a very big deal to me. Anyway,
She's talking about the car.
I was extremely grateful that I was able to get her, and I thanked Jesus repeatedly. Like it was such a big deal, and please use the vehicle for your service. Like, do what I need to do? But I had that cross in my car to remind me of, I don't have these things because of myself. I have them because of Jesus. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of us do the cross because to us, it is a constant reminder. It's something that's always in front of us. So we were always reminded of what it's about. Mm-hmm. So having it on your body or having it somewhere on your necklace or whatever. And it's also like we are walking around representing. So when someone looks at us, we want that to be seen so people know, oh, they love Jesus, mm-hmm. or they have faith. So that's what I think. Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with the symbols of our faith, like, and there are more symbols than just the cross. Like, they are valid and they're useful, and they, mm-hmm. so long as we're attaching the correct meaning and the correct symbolism, and it's taking our mind to the right spot. When it becomes something that just we lose what it really means, which Derek really intentionally unpacks it. When we lose what it really means, when it just becomes a means to an end, whether it just looks cool or it's everyone's wearing it and now I'm in, or that's when you're starting to twist the holy symbol of our faith. Mm-hmm. So it's good to like stop and just go, no. Mm-hmm. This is what it really meant and what it really means.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about the kids in school, and my daughter is in middle school. It's probably happening in elementary school, but my son's oblivious. But my daughter in middle school, it's very like, what's on their bodies is signaling something. The water bottle that they're carrying is signaling something. And so she's like, hey, can I get some Nike socks? Like, girl, do you understand the difference of cost between,
and they can't be ankles.
Nike socks
versus
and
$2.
Right?
Go to Walmart,
they
get a
have
Sharpie.
to be white.
And they need to be white. And I'm like, how long are those going to stay white? Are you going to walk around the driveway in those white Nike socks? Because, but that little swoosh, that little swoosh is signaling something. And there's something about us that we want to do that. I think for all of history, like people have marked themselves or their homes or something with symbols to signal, I'm with this group, I stand for this thing or whatever.
It points to like this deep desire for identity, right? Because we want to belong to something. And so, it just reinforces that. But my brain initially went back to like how wild this symbol was, because I mean the Romans intentionally lined these people up on crosses on the main thoroughfare. Like you're walking by and there's people dying on crosses. Like
the cross was a symbol.
Yeah. So it was a symbol. But just to even fathom, like, oh, let's stick that on a necklace and put it around her neck.
When did Passion of the Christ come out? And there's a lot of people can get all uppity about all different kinds of things, but when
like 07 or something?
Oh, yeah, it's been
way before
way
that.
before that.
I remember. I think it was like middle school.
I was still in school.
Let's find out.
It's
2004 or so.
So
I had just graduated. Okay.
20 years ago. I do remember. Well, I'm sure every church that did it. Like, we're going to get a group together, go to the screening of the Passion of the Christ. I was in middle school, maybe high school. That was the first time.
It was rough.
Like, seeing visually an attempt to kind of like show what it meant.
Yeah.
I have a memory of like
horrifying.
Of sitting and like crying in my whatever, my little chair at the movie theater, because it was like, oh, that's what it could have been like. Yeah, that's a vivid memory of mine.
It's wild.
Yeah, and that wasn't even the full extent of it. I mean, it was pretty close. That flogging scene. Not that we're really
I remember, and then
wow, that alone. I'm glad I'm not the son.
You could have been like, okay, like we got it. Yeah,
right.
And that was just the physical stuff.
Yeah, and that, I mean, and this is totally off tangent, but this is how we know, like when you just see that, this is how we know that he was either completely bonkers or he was God. You
Yes.
know, it goes
Yes.
back to, you know, you mentioned that a few weeks ago. Like the only two options, like he could completely off his rocker, convinced that he is, you know, the Son of God, or he is actually, the Son of God.
Yeah.
Because you're tapping out at some point.
Right.
No,
Have
no
to.
con artist is going the full way. No way.
Right. And we know he was crucified. It is common, historians, it is commonly accepted knowledge. Jesus was a real person who was crucified in Palestine in 30, 33, whatever AD. It's like he was definitely, he definitely underwent that. Yeah, he's either crazy, totally like, or he's real.
Yeah. It's interesting. One of the things that I was reading, I believe N.T. Wright, but he talks about all the details that are given about the Passion, like are firmly locating it as a historical event that actually happened with witnesses, like, and you can compare it to other contemporary accounts of crucifixion, and you know, this is a historical event that happened, like you said. Interesting though, like we God does not reveal to us the miracle of Christ's resurrection. We get he's not here, he's gone, but we don't get the unfolding of, and then the shroud slipped off his, you know what I mean? There's no unfolding of details about how the resurrection went down. It's just he's in the grave, and then witnesses to the fact that he is gone. So it's interesting, like that God has kept that. There's still some mystery to this whole miracle of Jesus dying and rising again for us. And I think I say all that to say, like, I'm going to die. You're going to die. The means of our death could be, you know, falling asleep at night and not waking up, or it could be something that entails suffering like Jesus did. And God has promised us resurrection, and I don't know exactly how that happens or what that looks like. And so there's just like very much like okay, by faith I know I will die. And by faith I know I will rise. And who knows how that all works out in the in-between.
Yeah, there's a wonder. There's it's almost a longing to find out as well.
Yep.
Sorry, that was a tangent.
No.
It just made me think.
We think about it all the time.
Yeah.
But that's more of the
right. And I think I remember being annoyed by the Passion movie because it ended, you just started to get some bright light and that was it.
I remember that.
Yeah. It was like, and you were like, so we're not going to tell about like the good news of the risen Jesus.
Is there going to be a second one, or?
But like he gave us all as much detail, you know.
That's what he wanted to accomplish.
And then it is just kind of like, and then, okay.
We'll see what The Chosen does. Aren't they getting?
You
Or is it this
just
weekend?
grasp
Season
the
5,
words
this
out
Friday.
of my
Is it?
mind.
Are they wrapping the whole thing up with like, or it's like a
I
three?
don't know if.
Whatever. They're getting close.
Well, they've got like 5 or 6 episodes, I think.
Am I going to season 5?
Season 5. So I don't know if I don't know if the episodes actually cover Jesus' death, but it's Passion Week now. That ended just before the
Look at this.
triumphal.
2 years ago, he was the chosen skeptic, and now he's giving us the vibe.
Things change.
Listen, I'm still skeptical, but I think I said it
Give it a
earlier to
shot,
Sarah.
right?
You chew the meat and spit out the bones, right? So I appreciate the story that they created.
I mean, you know, stained glass windows in old churches gave people a frame of reference to think about the story of Jesus. It's the modern stained glass window.
Yeah, it is. That's a really good point.
That's a
the
good-
stained glass windows at the church I came from were terrible as well.
Oh.
It's like, what? Like, what is that actually? And it's supposed to be a biblical, representation. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. Like
interesting.
The tomb's a hole in the ground. I'm like, what?
What?
Wait,
That's interesting.
This doesn't make, somebody needs to read the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah. Medieval artists can't necessarily be trusted for their
It's
renderings.
artistic,
Yeah.
so there's a subjectivity about
There
it.
you go. There you go. Okay. Well, the whole point of the cross is that Jesus receives the judgment that we deserve. So Derek talks about 3 powerful ways that Jesus transformed our relationship with God on the cross. And he, speaking of artistic, I feel like he artistically lays these out in a beautiful way. He says, as the darkness fell, Jesus absorbed God's wrath. As the cry echoed, Jesus endured God's absence. And as the curtain ripped, Jesus ushered us into God's presence. So like 3 scenes from the cross, basically. The darkness, his cry, and the curtain tearing. And how they transformed our relationship with God. I mean, we can go in order, or you can just talk about.
Well, I liked when Derek jumped in on kind of the shame aspect that Jesus was enduring on the cross. Like, so we are very Western, and we are very rational and modernistic thinking. So the guilt and the judgment aspect that comes naturally to us in our way of thinking, and I think it's hard for us. I think many people in our culture have a hard time realizing that there are other dynamics at play here that resonate more deeply in other parts of the world: the honor and the shame, the power and the weakness. And so, and Derek kind of delved into the power side too. Like in here, Jesus was not just taking our guilt and giving us freedom; he was also taking our shame, giving us honor, adopting us, and elevating us. He was also he was overpowering the weakness of sin. He was overpowering the powers of darkness and Satan, and it is, man, like this is one of the, you could study this for the rest of your life and not unpack everything that goes into it, that God in his infinite wisdom was just, it's cool. There's so many aspects to look at this with. Yeah.
It's funny as you're talking, because as I was listening to it, I was feeling guilty about the shame that he was enduring, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it's funny. Yeah. We live in this guilt, society. I'm like, man, I feel guilty that he had to go through such shame for me and my sin.
But I think there's actually there's a little bit of a lean toward shame honor right now with the social media rise and people being canceled, being publicly shamed on social media has caused this different relationship than maybe our generation fully gets.
A little bit of a cultural shift.
A little bit of a culture shift that I define my own truth, so you can't tell me if I'm guilty or not.
Right.
But I know what shame is, because
shame me,
I got shamed. I got shamed by my whole community on social media for something, or I didn't signal properly.
Yeah.
Virtue signal, or whatever. And so then I'm made to feel shame rather than made to feel guilt. So I do think that we might be living in a society that gets more than one side of that.
So we're out of touch. That's just what I heard.
I feel old is basically what I'm saying. Yeah.
But it is true. As you grew up, it was all about, it was all about righting wrong. So you felt guilty about certain things, and the shame and honor culture was definitely,
where I feel guilt, I think this is real for a lot of people too, is I feel guilty because I feel like I'm not able to fully comprehend, and I've said this before, what he did or what he's gone through. We were not there. We could not see it with our own eyes. And we were not, I think there's a big disconnect from us now versus obviously people who were there. But I always feel like I'm neither not, I feel like I'm doing something wrong because I can't seem to grasp the magnitude. But then I think to myself, is that on purpose? Is he stopping us from fully being able to understand? I don't think we could survive that, maybe. But there's parts where I'm just I can't get that. I feel like I should be more knocked off my feet or just completely overwhelmed by the magnitude of what happened. But I feel like there's something I just cannot grasp.
So I think I've heard you say, I don't know if it was on a podcast or something, but Sarah, you said something that thank God it didn't reveal the depths of my sin all at once.
Yes.
That it is an iterative process, because that would have crushed me to be, I'm this sinful. But it's an iterative process. I have to imagine there's a corollary there to thank God he's not revealing the magnitude of the cross to us all at once.
Yeah.
Would that crush you?
Yes.
To see?
Yes.
But as you are sanctified and as you mature and as you can more fully comprehend your own sin, you can more fully comprehend the weight and the gravity that Jesus underwent and endured. So I think it's sanctification. I think it's an iterative process. Don't feel guilty. Don't get to.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Was it intentional or not? I think it's just the obvious reality of the depth of sin.
Yeah.
And instead of feeling guilty, it should help us appreciate the gift that much more, because that the true depth of the wrath of God that we would endure outside of the grace of Jesus Christ is something that in Jesus, under his grace, we will never endure.
Right.
And this is why Jesus had to do it, and not a human.
And this is, so it's been helpful for me at times to think about, like, we all had moments in our lives where we got caught. You know, and when you feel you're like, oh no, like, and that rush of like hot heat, or you start sweating, you're
Stomach
like,
gets all
oh my
like
gosh, and then you
weird.
start like conjuring up, how do I get out of this? Narratives, how do I make this less than it actually is? And I remember the first time in my life, like, well, it was the only time in my life I got arrested. I was 16 years old.
Love this.
Please.
All right, but
Don't miss a detail.
It was one of those times in my life where I'm like, there's like no, I'm about to get taken home to my parents
Yes.
in a police van. There's no way that I can weasel a narrative to make this less than it actually
At
is.
least you were in a van. It's a
And,
little bit roomier, right?
Yeah, that's what I was so
Yeah.
grateful for the room.
Thank
yes,
God.
yes. But it was that moment. So anyway, back to my point.
Oh yeah.
Like, it's that times 10, 100, bazillion,
Yes.
trillion, whatever, that is magnified on the cross, because it says, he who knew no sin became
Came
sin.
sin.
And so it wasn't just he was going, I'm dying for that time. He says, I'm owning it, and as if it was mine. Like, it's not yours anymore to own, Stephen. Like, give it to me.
People of all time.
Like, that is wild to me.
Well, and he that would have been a new feeling for Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah.
A brand
The
new
feeling of guilt,
Yes.
right? And like
Oh,
the
yeah.
immensity of that.
Because he never.
And the
Right.
fact that it's easier for us to understand the physical, like we read that and share the passion of Christ or what, like that's easier for us to kind of like empathize with. The fact that Jesus had always had perfect communion with the Father, and then that was broken because of that sin. I think that was that was the bigger thing for Jesus. That was the more painful, the more substantial. Those 3 hours.
Because
when
he
was-
never. Okay, so it was 3 hours that he was separated.
Well-
Do we have like a rough idea? That was my question. I was literally just going to ask.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, we just have to cry.
I don't know if anyone.
My God,
you're
my
right,
God, why
but
have you
like
forsaken
how.
me?
Okay.
Yeah, we don't.
I would
get
imagine
emotional.
once the curtain is torn,
They're back.
This is me kind of.
They're back together.
But once the curtain is torn, that's when it's been accomplished. But I don't take that for gospel. It's Mike's own theological, whatever.
Okay.
But the point is that separation was the most consequential thing that Jesus endured, more so than the physical, and that's harder for us, I think, to empathize with, just because of who we are.
Which is what we're supposed to see as well, because if you think about the Garden of Eden, we are created for perfect union with our Creator, in the joy that Christ Himself enjoys in that reality is the thing that He is most afraid of. Is that separation. And that, I think that's what we ought to see, we ought to feel, because it's hard to resonate with even today, if I'm honest, that like the thought, and people say, what is hell, right? I think hell is just a reality of what you know to be true, but what you can never actually obtain. So it's no longer hope, it's no longer faith, it's reality,
Like this.
but you can never obtain it. So when you know something is true, but you can never have it, I think that's why they say like
Forever,
gnashing
ever,
of teeth,
and
because
ever.
you're like, like I can never have that.
Despair.
And that's, we were our very essence, the very essence of humanity was created to be in relationship with God. And so I don't know. I agree with you, Mike, that separation is the thing that we ought to see. Like Jesus was, yes, the sin was, yes, the wrath was, but that separation was perhaps the greatest thing that he feared.
Which is crazy, and we've never experienced that. And we will one day, if we have to. We will get back to that Garden of Eden state, but we've never experienced that. And so watching the depth of pain that Jesus experienced for that short time of absence, tells you how valuable and beautiful it is. So the flip side is
How painful it can be.
holy crap, it's that good, and we're gonna get that one day because Jesus did.
Right.
I mean, however Derek said it, like because Jesus endured that absence, we never have to. We will only ever have more and more communion with God. That's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, it's because it's the reversal of
Correct.
the fall. And so the only other people who felt what Jesus felt were Adam and Eve, who had felt no guilt and then
Ooh, that's an interesting
felt
thought.
guilt. But in their guilt, then what? Guilt, shame, hiding, fleeing, and then it's separation. Can you imagine?
no.
They went from full communion with God to separation from him. He didn't not
That's what I
ever.
thought. I
Panic.
never thought of
Like,
that.
So,
were they just like?
Just another reason Jesus is the second Adam, but he does.
Only 3 people have ever had perfect communion with God, and then it was broken.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll chew on that one.
Panic must have felt. Need to go.
Yeah. Well, and so this is one of those details that has always blown my mind, that they are hiding and ashamed because they recognize their nakedness. And it says just casually that God clothed them with skins before they left the garden. So something died. God
To
killed
give
something.
them-
Yeah, to cover their shame. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
The first foreshadowing.
see what you're doing there. See what you're doing there.
Shoot.
This is crazy. Okay, so we kind of covered as the darkness fell, and then it's this as the cry echoed and Jesus is enduring. And I love how Derek weaved Psalm 22 through this sermon.
I did not know that.
That the cry is it's not only anguish, it's also fulfillment.
Yeah. And Jesus, as a Jewish man, would have, he would have known what he was saying in that moment. And those listening also would have known what he was saying. It's amazing how you could, they studied the Torah, so they had a greater respect for the Torah, the 5 first books of the Bible, rather than, the entirety. So they probably wouldn't have maybe considered the Psalms in that moment with the same level of authority, right?
I don't know. That's a good question.
But what Jesus is doing is he's, even in that moment, it's intentional. He's trying to connect the dots. His crucifixion is public. It's that people are looking. So here he is trying to, even in those moments, connect the dots for those who have ultimately betrayed him and forsaken him. It's a beautiful thing.
And I wonder, so Jesus died, and they've got about 3 days, but not quite. It's more like 48 hours or whatever it was until Jesus comes. Before the women rush in and say, "We saw him." So they've got a day and some change where they must just be in despair, depression, anxiety. Is this really real? But I wonder if they were just thinking like, "My God, wait a minute, that's Psalm 22. Wait a minute, you got remember what I memorized as a kid and
I know this.
but wait, it ends I just imagine that theological, mental, emotional wrestling that they must have endured, all these breadcrumbs, if we can call them that Jesus was leaving, and Jesus said this, and wait a minute, I'll go ahead of you to Galilee, and just it must have been torturous. But then when those women popped in and they were like, he's alive, as low as the depths that they probably experienced the next day, how high was the high when they actually got to behold Jesus again? I don't know. It's put yourself in the story.
Well, and the minds that went to work, those are the people I want to talk to. Of tell me how to talk to me about your mental game. We know you were emotionally all over the place.
Yeah.
But Peter, what was the mental game for you between that day and then 50 days later at Pentecost, when the Spirit comes, you know what I mean?
Walk me that path.
Yeah, I just want to I want to know. And then however many years later when he wrote his letters, there's obviously been growth and learning and maturity and sanctification, all the things. It's that's what I want to know. Unpack your brain.
I wonder if there's campfires one day.
Yes.
Where we'll all sit around and there'll be the tales of the apostles.
I think about this too.
All those musical people are strumming their harps and guitars together somewhere.
You got 10,000 years. You can do Peter for this 10,000. You do Paul for the next 10,000. Just hear the stories. Yeah.
Tell the story again. Tell the story again.
Oh, it's so good.
But even so when we get to the curtain rib, how in the first century, how, there's no reference point to that, because all they had ever known was the Holy of Holies.
Yes.
This separation, Like even the Sanhedrin at that time, like, are they not going, what?
See,
Like,
this is where I go. Like you were like, I want to have conversations with them in that moment. Like,
probably
tell
not.
me,
Maybe Nicodemus.
tell me what you thought. Tell me what you felt. Tell me like what your horror was the second you saw that rip and what was going through your mind. Like, oh my gosh, she was telling the truth like this whole time. Like, I want to know. I would love to be able to time for it and stand there and watch it all. Like, just the satisfaction of watching them having to swallow that and absorb what that was like. And when we're on this part too, they talk about the Roman soldier. He's the one that makes the first comment. I think what gets me is I've talked about this book before, Killing Jesus. Okay. Like this book was huge for me.
Oh, yeah, well,
By Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah.
And it's purely factual. And they tell you at the beginning when they write it, this is not from a faith standard. This is from a factual of the times, like Romans.
Academic historian.
You have to like realize the Roman soldiers, they were terrified. Like they were big, burly, unfazed men. And they were also like, you step out of line, like you were killed. Like they were terrified of their leadership. Like, so for them to say that, or for him to say that, that was like I would love to know people in earshot what that was like for them when he made that statement, because to watch a Roman soldier do it, that had to be huge.
Well, it's fascinating because so that was a Roman soldier or centurion or whatever it was. But then Cornelius was the first Gentile believer, was also Roman soldier, centurion. So even just talking about what that culture, the culture of being a Roman soldier at the time, but the first two Gentiles to like say that Jesus was the Son of God were two Roman centurions. That's fascinating. Not connected to that one either.
Well, and I mean, Caesar was the Son of God, so
Well,
this is like a bigger
Stick it
deal
to them,
than just like recognizing who Jesus is.
Yeah.
This is counter-revolutionary stuff right here. It's, to like say that out loud. But yeah, that centurion is the first person in the Gospels to say, to speak the divinity of Christ as a fact.
I also don't think we can fathom what this curtain was like either.
Right, how thick it was.
Well, imagine,
like I need to like see one.
Imagine
and
that
touch
high
it.
priest walking in that
Christmas
whenever
at the
next
Warner. Think Christmas at the Warner.
The what?
but thicker.
That big asbestos thing. Yeah.
But imagine that high priest walking in and going, "What the heck?"
Because you can't just cut that.
You can't sneak
Right.
in and cut
Top
that
down.
without anybody.
Top down.
And I'm sure the dramatics of the rip. Did anyone see it? Was anyone standing there? I don't know.
So there would have been someone serving in the outer, not in the
Yes.
Holy of Holies, but in like the outer, they did like the candles and the incense and stuff.
And he
on
would
the
make sure someone's-
daily. So somebody, but then
And he
it
would
was
wanna
like,
make sure.
was he like, hey,
Caiaphas, we
Because
got a
that
mission
had to
over
have
here.
been like the
Right.
drama with that, that and the terror. I don't know.
I mean,
Is something I've always wanted to see or witness.
Yeah, I mean, it's Holy Week, so it's Yom Kippur. Is it the Day of Atonement when Jesus
On
dies?
Friday?
Because
No.
Shabbat would have been the next day.
It was Thursday night.
the night before. I don't actually. That's a good question.
Well, but you would have had
what?
the Passover meal in the evening in the Jewish day.
I'm just saying, is the
from
high
sundown to
is the
sundown.
high priest in the Holy of
So it's
Holies
Sabbath.
in that
on-
moment?
That's Well, yeah. What the other day went from evening
Yeah.
to evening, right? So technically, if they had the Passover meal in the evening,
Right.
that would have
But
kept
when
going
is-
He was
Thursday
taken.
night
Oh, we
until
need to do a
dusk
little
at-
research on that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So was
What
he
was the
going
timing?
in?
Is
Or,
Caiaphas in there at the moment?
I wanna know.
In that
Yes.
moment when it rips. And
It's like
Uh-oh.
just think about the sheer
That's-
terror as a
Yes.
as a Jew, the high priest, like that curtain's there to separate the presence of God
and has been there
in
for
all his terrifying glory from
and the idea that he was good enough for the presence of
the
God.
irony of that.
The irony of like that he's the one supposedly standing in the presence of God, the only one. Yeah, wow. What a fool.
Ooh, that's a thought.
Yeah,
and he's the very
why don't we
one
know
who,
that?
well, not the only, but it was the master class on, false testimonies and everything, Caiaphas set the whole thing up as the high priest in order to get Jesus to say what he said, which ultimately led to his death. So, yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, that curtain always gets me
Yeah,
every time.
the buzz. I mean, there was no social media, so nobody was posting pictures or anything. But like the buzz in Jerusalem.
Oh, for
Because that would have gotten out.
Did you hear the curtain rip? Did you
Yeah,
hear that?
yeah. Did you see all the priests going crazy and
Yeah, they're all busy last night, and now that dude got killed.
And then
Caiaphas running around like a?
it wasn't the last curtain ever, right? Like they continued to do the curtain even after.
Well,
like this is something that kept continuing on. I would think
Until
at least
for another couple decades.
40 years.
So what do they think about every time they put one up? Is this one gonna rip too? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they replace it.
Like, do you
until
never
the
look at the
temple
same-
The temple's been torn down.
You never-
since
yeah.
They said
Yep.
whatever it
70,
was,
80.
70.
So you never
something.
looked at it. They probably never looked at that curtain ever the same.
They stitch it up.
Yeah, what do they do with it? Oh, I have a lot of questions.
Well, it ended up probably getting burnt.
I get to heaven, I'm like, okay, I got a whole list
I don't know
here.
if the majority of the Sanhedrin's going to be there, though. Let me.
Jesus will tell me. Jesus will tell
Nicodemus,
me.
maybe.
Jesus will.
There's
Jesus
a
can let me.
handful. There's a handful. All right, fascinating. I think
Okay.
we need to wrap this up, right?
Yeah, we're close. We're close.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're doing okay. Okay. So Derek asked 2 questions at the end, or like a question and a challenge. Like, what barriers are you still keeping between yourself and God's presence, even though that curtain's been torn? And so there's just that. It's kind of like, for me, of like, what's the barrier keeping you from his word? If he's chosen to reveal himself to you, it's us putting a barrier in. So same, like he's offering his presence. We're the ones putting up barriers, not him. So there's that interesting question. And then the challenge was to practice gratitude. So I was curious on your thoughts on either of those things, of how you've torn down your own barriers, how you practice gratitude for the cross.
Believe it or not, the last probably week or so, he's been really pushing me to be quiet and listen. A lot. Stop talking to me so much. Like, not in that way, but do you know what I mean? Like, just don't, just listen. Just take more time. Like, I feel like, yes, he wants to hear everything I have to say, but I think I've crossed over. And he's like, you're not listening.
Sarah.
So I think I'm doing a lot of talking. So I think that's become a barrier where I'm not giving as much time on the listening end as the talking end. So I've been reflecting more on hushing.
That's really great. I would echo that theme, not necessarily the talking part of it, but more so just simply enjoying the ability to be in the presence of God.
Yes. You did.
I think that's.
I
would
needed
say
those words. Thank you.
in the last
Yes.
couple of months has been my thing. Like, what's it look like just to sit and enjoy the presence of God?
Oh,
Yeah, not in
This
like
is
a
interesting.
weird, hyper charismatic way, but just like.
yes.
And that's not a knock.
Sit.
I'm not doing it. I guess I'm saying I'm not doing anything weird. I'm just like, it's almost just, it's allowing your heart to be filled with the gratitude of this ability in this moment.
Yes.
I don't get to do this outside of the gift that Jesus gave me.
Yeah.
And so thank you.
Have you guys ever practicing the presence of God by Brother Lawrence?
Yeah.
I think you've talked about it before. I've
Have
never
I?
read
Okay,
it.
so it's
No.
like it's my thing right
It's like
now.
this thick.
Oh,
You can.
I'll read it this
totally
afternoon.
do it.
But 16th century, 17th
Yeah,
century, something
yeah.
like that. But dude's been dead for
Oh
a
yeah,
while. But
because didn't you go to a monastery or something?
yeah, I've been to a couple of
Okay,
Jesuit
yeah,
silent
that's-
retreats, and
yeah.
in any case, I got it in modern English, and it's good to read, and it's all about just like building in the habit of just being aware that we're in God's presence, and I'm just making it a part of my chair time. Like, I'm kind of opening with a little sliver of it just to remember to, like, I'm in God's, and I used to say, oh God, you're with me now. I'm like, wait, no, I'm in your presence right now. I'm always in your presence. So even the little moments of the day, not even like I'm just trying to get in the habit of, like, I'm in the car.
Because
But
don't
I'm
we
in your
feel like when we
presence.
go to him, we have to do something? Like we're having
Correct.
to, like, hi, we're
Right.
here. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I'm in this podcast. But,
Yeah.
But I'm also in God's presence right now.
And I'm not being crushed because of Jesus.
Correct.
That's good. I'm not being smote.
Yes.
Or
And I'm
smited.
still alive. And I can smile. In fact, I can come boldly
Yeah.
into that presence because of Jesus.
I
So
just like to sit
what
here.
Yeah.
what's keeping me from being God's presence? I think it's just distraction or a lack of awareness, and I'm not even talking about digital fast things. I mean, that plays a part, but like I need to build in the habit, and it's amazing what that will do when you're in the middle of, like, I want to say something snarky to, like, my wife, and then I'm like, but I'm in God's presence right now.
Shoot.
Maybe
Yeah.
it's just a good,
Yeah.
it's a good habit that I'm trying to cultivate, so I'm not distracted or unaware that I am in God's
That's good.
presence.
That's good.
It's a good knock on the old 90s. Would you be proud of what you're doing when Jesus came back? Like if Jesus came back right now, you
Yeah.
know, and it's like, well,
It's so
we're
real.
in the presence of God right now.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is like a theological rabbit trail, but
Do
it's
it.
because we think of heaven as somewhere else
Correct.
than here. And the reality is that it's just like we can't see that
Right.
realm. It isn't that like Jesus has floated off to some heavenly by and
You're
by.
absolutely
Yeah,
right.
it's not two
There's-
circles that are separate.
no.
It's that
Right.
Venn diagram where they,
Yeah.
they begin to overlap. He brought
Somebody said to me a couple weeks ago in an unrelated conversation about kids, blah, 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 but they used the word notice, like teaching your kids to notice, like a pile of trash on the floor and pick it up, or teaching, you know, whatever. But that word got stuck in my head. And so I've been like chewing on that. You know, we're digitally fasting, so I am more. But I'm like, it's to what you're saying of like, am I noticing? Notice right
That's a
now
good word.
that I'm in God's presence. Just notice.
Notice it.
Notice.
Because it's there.
Yeah.
It's always there, but you just
Yeah.
have to be aware
Right.
and
You
notice.
have to
That's a good
notice
word.
it.
Yeah. So anyway, that's something I've been chewing on recently.
That's good.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. Listen, Derek suggested that maybe one of the things that you can do is journal some gratitude, go back to Psalm 22 or Isaiah 53, read one of the passion narratives in any of the 4 gospels, and just, why are you thankful? Why are you grateful that Jesus did that? I think that would be a good exercise for all of us. No matter how long we've known Jesus, I don't think that exercise would ever get
Correct.
old or stale or unfruitful. So
I agree with that.
yeah, I think there's some official words I'm supposed to say here at the end
and
to close us
subscribe or
out. Yeah, you
something.
can like and subscribe. You can shoot us a question if you want. You can check out more stuff at whoisgrace.com/Mark. And these guys and Danielle will see you back here next week for just 2
Thank
more.
you, Sarah.
Second to last.
So glad you were here.
Yay.
Yeah, thanks for
Thanks
Always
for
a
letting
good
me
time.
join you.
Enjoy.
Adios.
Bye.